Hey y'all, welcome to Sandy's Library. I'm Sandy, and in this video we're going to wrap up the religion wars. These are old family tales about my grandmother's people, so if you need visuals, there are links posted in the description outlining both of my grandparents' family trees. In the last video, we learned about Brother Jackson's plight. Now, let's take a look at the aftermath for the Fullers and even Mr. Jim Riley. Okay, so remember how the preacher had prophesied that the land would now become void and desolate? And how he had also advised them to harvest their crops and leave Berea because a plague was going to sweep through the area and destroy the wicked. Remember that? They say prophesied, I say cursed. It's all semantics, really. See, the people involved and our half-cousin, they all believed that the preacher gave the saints a prophecy. But what if he was simply warning them to get the hell out of Dodge because he was about to curse the shit out of this place, right along with the people in it, for what they had done to him? And let's remember, nobody came to his rescue when he was being beaten within an inch of his life. But anyway, after returning home from taking the preacher to safety, it's said that Willie went to his mother, Julia Wheat Williams, asking if she had made the hoods for the mob. He told her, "Ma, I hope you didn't, because I could have been killed." It's reported that she replied, "I didn't have anything to do with it." Willie then asked her if she knew what they were planning to do to the saints, to which Julia is said to have replied, "They just asked me to make the hoods, and I never gave an answer." It's also said that Julia made the following additional statements. "Willie, you may think I'm lying, but I didn't know they were going to hurt that preacher. They told me they just wanted to scare him out of town, never mentioning harming him." Look, y'all, anybody who's ever taken an entry-level psychology course can see the admission of guilt in Julia's statements. "I didn't know they were going to hurt anybody." Come on, that has to be the lamest excuse ever. Plus, to be honest, Julie's excuses sound just like me when I'm trying to worm my way out of trouble. But anyway, as the story goes, just like the preacher had promised, a few days later, a plague swept through the Berea community. And y'all, this is an event that I have not been able to confirm. But that doesn't mean it didn't happen. I mean, there has to be some reason that caused Berea to become an extinct little town by the time I came along. It's said that shortly after this incident, a large number of the community's residents had taken ill, and many were dying. Our half-cousin also reports that the town's only doctor had to run away and hide to get any rest. Y'all, I hope that last bit was just someone's hopeful, albeit over-the-top bid at trying to show us the severity of the situation. Our half-cousin does say, though, that in a short period of time, although no one bothers to define short, but around 42 deaths occurred in the Berea community. He also says that so many people were dying at the same time that folks could be seen in the graveyard at night burying their dead. Okay, so as y'all might have guessed, I've got a few questions about this. Firstly, I need them to define this short period of time for me. We're talking about 42 deaths, yet people are having to resort to burying their dead at night? Why the rush to bury these people? Y'all, something does not add up here. I I mean, even if these 42 people did all die, say, within a week, it's still reasonable to assume that they could have buried their dead during the day and not had to resort to nighttime burials as well. Right? So I gotta ask, why the rush to get them into the ground? No matter what some of y'all might like to think, but just like earthquakes, hurricanes, and tornadoes, plagues do not pick and choose their victims. Yet, here we are, with not a single saint being inflicted with this plague. It's also noted that they are all leaving when they could. The only member of my ancestors' families reportedly to get sick was Willie's mother, Julia Wheat Williams. It's said that Willie believed his mother had made the hoods for the mob, and that this affliction was God's punishment. I don't know about all that, y'all, but my scientific brain says there's something fishy about that plague, if it did indeed happen. I should also note that this could be, and probably is, one of those embellished parts of the tale. Because here we have Willie, who was betrayed beyond belief by his mother, yet he not only stays behind to care for her, but he also puts his family in danger by not sending them away with Lizzie's parents, who also stayed behind because they weren't going to leave their daughter, not when she was in danger. It's said that Willie tried to convince them to leave, but they wouldn't. And you know, I would have expected Willie to demand that Lizzie and the children leave with her parents, yet he doesn't do that. Instead, he gives in, and everyone, including his in-laws, stayed behind until Julia either gets well enough to travel or she dies. In our half-cousin's account of this story, it's said that early one morning, while the family was worrying about Julia's ability to recover, if she didn't start showing signs of improvement soon, when they heard the sounds of wagons heading their way. You know, and I'm thinking, oh shit, here comes the mob again. But no, miraculously, when the commotion reached the Fuller residence, the sound of the horses' hooves and the wagon wheels rose into the sky and traveled over the house. It was made known to them that this was the angel of death sent by the Lord. And the Lord, Bill Hawkins Fuller had said, was the reason that the plague had passed them by in the first place. My question is, why did the angel of death need a wagon and horses to spread a plague? So, anyway, Julia Wheat Williams is said was sick for weeks and almost died too. But that Willie prayed for her and begged God to spare her life, which he apparently did, because the Williams family was in Louisiana when my grandmother's brother, Uncle Jeff, was born in Jackson Parish in November of 1899. That's 1899. I'm stumbling over my words. Sorry, y'all. But gotta get these recorded while I can still talk. So, anyway, it's also worth noting that the Williams family's church membership was transferred to Jacksonville, Arkansas in 1902. And this does support the family tales which say They moved back and forth between Arkansas and Louisiana numerous times before Lizzie's death in 1908. It's said that it took Marion Fuller a full year to recover from his head injury, and we already know the plight of Brother Jackson. So, one would think this story was over, right? No, There's a short piece in our half-cousin's manuscript noting that many years later, Connie Fuller, grandson of Marion and Belle Fuller, along with his grandmother Belle and her uncle Jim Fuller, returned to Ashley County, Arkansas. And we're talking about Lizzie's brother, Jim Fuller, not her uncle. And just like in any good story, while they were there, they ran into, guess who? Jim Riley, who, it appeared, had lost everything as he was driving around in an old taxi cab. So, what y'all think happened? Yep, the two Jims getting into this huge argument, where it said that Fuller was yelling at Riley about being so mean to the saints back in the day. Riley's defense was that he had the Lord on his side because he had angels around him every night. So, naturally, Belle Hawkins Fuller pipes up with, "Yeah, then they must be the devil's angels." Connie reported that he thought the two Jims were going to come to blows if someone didn't defuse the situation. He says he attempted to do just that by saying to his uncle, "We didn't come here to create any problems. Let's just go and leave this man. He's had enough trouble already. He's lost everything he had." This was Connie Fuller's assessment, that Jim Riley had lost everything and he'd had to resort to taxiing people around for a living. Hey, well, honestly, y'all, I could think of worse occupations. For real. But anyway, Connie told the interviewer it was a bad situation for everyone concerned. And it happened just like the preacher said. Now, wait a minute. Earlier in this story, Connie was reported to have said that he didn't think the mob had harmed the preacher. And now you say he says it happened just the way the preacher said. At best, somebody's got their facts confused. Who? I do not know. But Connie's input does give credence to my idea that Lizzie's brother was the Jim Fuller featured in the story, getting into the fist fight with Jim Riley. And Connie was born in December of 1906, and Belle died in December of 1939. So, the last bit of the story, if it actually took place, probably happened in the late 1920s or early 1930s. Still, it's a little bit odd, at least to me, that neither Connie nor my grandmother or any of her siblings ever mentioned these religion wars in front of me. And in front of me, they were always spinning their tales about those who came before us. So I just don't get it. But that said, I do believe there is a measure of truth to this story. I'm just not sure how much. And in the end, it leaves me with more questions than answers. In our half-cousin's manuscript, this story ends with Connie's input. And then our half-cousin moves on to other stories until later in the manuscript, where he has one brief paragraph about this event, and it's sandwiched inside another story. Now, why it wasn't included with the actual story is beyond me. But anyway, here's the paragraph and my thoughts about it. He says, On July 25th, 1891, Marion Fuller was ordained to the office of priest by J.D. Irwin after receiving a calling. And our half-cousin says specifically, this was a great help to the church group in the community, as Marion could now preach and conduct prayer services in his home. Some of their friends began enjoying the fellowship with them. As a result of these efforts, several were converted and became outstanding members of the church. Then he confuses me a little because he says during the year 1896, and then right beside 1896 in parentheses he says 1901. So I'm not sure what year he's talking about. But he says Brother J.W. Jackson, a missionary, was invited to conduct a missionary series in the home of Brother Fuller. These meetings began to create an interest among many of the area's residents. Because of this interest, some in the community began to fear the loss of their own church membership. Rumors began to circulate over these ill feelings. As a result of this contention, a band of masked men came against the saints, and then he references see religious persecution for details. Hello? That's a damn different story than what you told earlier in your manuscript. In the first version, y'all remember I have the one I just told y'all, when all these damn videos here, our half-cousin makes it seem like J.W. Jackson came into an already contentious situation. But in this version, he suggests that Jackson was the cause of the contention. And y'all, I do have reservations about Brother Jackson being the actual cause. Look, it seems a little odd to me that grown men would resort to this type of behavior over losing members of their own congregation. I mean, did they honestly think this was the way to get them to come back? Did my half-cousin really buy into that? Look, these people weren't stupid, and I still feel like there was more going on. And that sentence near the end where he says, rumors began to circulate over these ill feelings. What rumors? That's a bold statement to make without backing it up with even a single example. So yeah, I still say there was more going on in the religion wars than what's been handed down through the old family tales. And I do find it shockingly odd that for as much time as Sissy and I spent at Aunt Julie Bell's house before she went into the old folks' home in the late 1960s, that I have never ever heard Aunt Julie Bell or Sissy speak of their mother sewing sheets together for this incident. And I mean, they talked about every damn thing else though, so why not this? But y'all, this is probably something that I will never know the answers to. But we're going to keep digging, and y'all, we're about to get into some trippy shit now, as we're going to talk about ghost stories and magic in the next couple of videos. So, until next time, y'all, later gators.